Hello and welcome to this video about probability and odds. We're changing gears a little bit to talk a little bit about probability. So a couple of words to keep in mind. Anytime I talk about outcomes, I talk about what are the possible results. Okay? And I have to consider any possible results of a certain, what's called an experiment. Okay? An event is going to be an outcome or a collection of outcomes. Okay. Basically, it's usually saying, what's the probability of something happening? That something happening is what's called my event. It's what do I want to happen? What am I looking at? What's the sort of situation that I want to find the probability of? That's what's called the event in probability. Okay. Once I specify the event, I talk about what's a favorable outcome. Okay? What a favorable outcome, basically it's saying, another way of thinking is what I want to happen. For the event. Okay. An unfavorable outcome will be what I don't want to happen. Okay. The probability of the event, okay, basically tells me what is the chances of something happening. Is usually given by the number of favorable outcomes over the number of possible outcomes. Okay, so I use the idea in the class of saying, what's the chances of me looking at the class and choosing somebody with a headband? In this particular day, there were 3 students with headbands, and there were 14 total students in the class. So I had 3/14 of a chance of picking somebody that had a headband. Okay. There's going to be a difference between what I call the theoretical probability and what's called an experimental probability. Okay. Theoretical probability states in a perfect world what's the probability of something happening. So that's the probability of the event equals the number of favorable possible outcomes over the number of possible. Okay. This is in an ideal world. A lot of times we call what's an experimental probability. Usually the more times we repeat something, the closer to the theoretical probability that we get. But we know life isn't always perfect. So we say that the probability of the event in an experimental sense will be the number of successes over the number of trials. Okay? So if I look at flipping a coin, I should have a 50-50 chance. So I should have a 1/2 chance of getting ahead each time. Well, if I was to flip the coin 10 times, I should get 5 out of 10, I should get heads. Now in real life, I might end up with 7 out of 10 I get heads, or I might end up with 1 out of 10 I get heads. It's part of life, okay? So that would be what's classified as an experimental probability. The last one to take a look at when I think about odds, okay? What's the odds in favor, okay? And what's the odds against something? Okay, odds in favor will be the favorable outcomes to the unfavorable outcomes. Okay, so if I have 7 possible outcomes, 3 are favorable, 4 are unfavorable. So I have an odds of odds in favor of 3/4, or 3/4 odds in favor. Okay, odds against, we just flip it. What's the unfavorable versus the favorable? So that's what happens when we tend to talk about the odds of something happening. So relatively simple, more definitions than anything else, and that's about it.